Welcome to the Strategy MVP webinar for November. We're going to go over a few housekeeping items first, and then I'm going to introduce our speakers, which you can see on camera already. As you know, here's the committee members for SMAC. We do have a new member. His picture is there at the end, Don Dutton, so you'll see and probably hear more of him come 2023. So we're excited to bring him on board and work with us. If you have any questions, suggestions, any information to share with us, please email us at smac@sitecore.com, and one of the members that you see pictures of will get back to you through that email. A few things we're going to go over: application reminders, 2023 updates, and then today's speakers. As you know, MVP applications open up today, so please get those in. If you have questions, you can reach out at mvp@sitecore.com. If you have strategy MVP specific questions, are unsure of some things, please feel free to email us as well on the SMAC committee. We're more than happy to work with you and answer any questions. If you need, I know I have the instructions listed here. If you need a little bit more step-by-step instructions, please reach out, mvp@sitecore.com, or you can email the SMAC members, the SMAC email, as we do have, I do have a PDF version of the step-by-step instructions if that is needed. I want to make sure this is easy as possible for you all. So looking ahead at 2023, a few things. We want to know what you guys want to talk about. I know before we kind of listed out what the items and topics were going to be for the webinars throughout the year. We'd like to hear from you. We were able to speak with some of you at Symposium, which was awesome. Thank you for attending. And we want to hear, is there things we're not covering that you guys have suggestions on? And this could be anything from things you like to talk about. Maybe it's things you want to hear more about. Just let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Another reminder that anyone can attend these strategy webinars and anyone can present. It is not locked down to just MVP strategy members. We want to make sure we're spreading the word, doing reach outs in the community. So please invite colleagues, coworkers, friends, etc. Down at the bottom, the last bullet, you're going to see our 2023 webinar schedule. We will announce the exact dates closer to, but that's the months that we are looking at. So there is 4 webinars. And just a quick note as well here, you may notice we stopped the newsletter. We feel the webinars had a lot more traction, were much more beneficial, so we will continue with those, but we have for now stopped the newsletter. Quick reminder, tomorrow we do have another webinar happening, and these are the speakers and their topics. If you can attend, please head to the LinkedIn SMAC page and feel free to register for that webinar. It'll be good. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce today's speakers, which is, again, you can see on camera. We're going to start with Peter, then we're going to go to Rob, and then we will finish last with Vaishali, best for last. No, I'm just kidding. They're all going to be great. And we will please save questions to the end. Feel free to post them in the chat. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Peter.
So, Crystal, I don't seem to have permission to share.
Uh-oh. All right.
Oh, and I have.
Peter, I've just made you a presenter.
Perfect. Made me sweat for a minute. Thank you. Okay. So bear with me one sec. I take it you can see my screen. Okay. Okay, thank you. So, hi, my name's Peter Clisby. I'm Regional Sitecore Architect for EMEA at Valtech. And my talk is about API-driven personalization in Sitecore CDP and Sitecore Personalize. So the question being, why is API-driven personalization important? Now, an example is when I came back from SUDCON, a colleague and friend of mine posted on LinkedIn about the sort of great product announcements, including CDP and Personalize. And actually a troll from another vendor, a competitor of Sitecore, picked up on the post, and as you sort of commonly see on LinkedIn, said about how he couldn't understand products that waited for the page to load and then swapped out the content after the page had loaded. But as most people will be aware, that's not a limitation of Sitecore Personalize, and it's got other routes. So another relevant point, I'm referencing a blog by Corey Underwood about Google Optimize and the impact on cumulative layout shift. And just to describe the process of how the page would load when we've got the sort of client-side script on the page. So the page will load and it will start to lay out the DOM. The page would then find Google Tag Manager if you've implemented it with Google Tag Manager and load the script. Google Tag Manager would then load Sitecore Personalize. Sitecore Personalize then fires a network call to make a decision based on CDP events. Sitecore Personalize would then get the response, and it would dynamically change the page and effectively inject the HTML from the web template into the DOM. So the result of that can be, depending on the size of it, that all elements below the web template HTML visually shift downwards to accommodate the new element, which causes cumulative layout shift, which if people are familiar with core vitals and sort of page performance and in relation to SEO, that's a core metric of your page performance. So just to cover at a high level, I think Vaishali is going to speak later about the importance of real-time data, but you can use the stream APIs in Sitecore, Sitecore CDP. That's the event API and the browser API in order to kind of capture user interactions. And the value of that is online data capture, as you can see on the screen. You can then use that data for website personalization. And then also create reports on behavioral information, as well as personalizing based on that behavior. You can also use CDP events in decision models so that we can programmatically use Sitecore Personalize and CDP to make decisions based on that data and then show the users different content based on that. So I'll dig into that a little bit further. So my slides will change. So first, to look at how we'd integrate these events with your site or platform, there's three main options. First being JavaScript, or as the documentation describes it, direct client-side calls. Second being Google Tag Manager or any kind of tag manager, and they're describing that as client-side via GTM. And the third being the API route, describing that as server-side calls to the APIs, but you can also call these at the edge, which we'll explore later. So to look at the sort of con sections of each approach, so you can see, obviously with the JavaScript, it requires some implementation to put the JavaScript in the markup of your application. With the Google Tag Manager approach, it enables perhaps marketers to implement it without developer input, but there's a dependency on Google Tag Manager. Both can, in theory, be blocked by ad blockers. And then you've got the two concepts I've mentioned previously, where you can have a flicker, and in turn that can impact the cumulative layout shift and your sort of core vitals. And then for the server side API calls, it can increase the server rendering time. And as I'll explain later, a way to mitigate this is to make these API calls from the edge, and we'll go into that subsequently. So to look at how the JavaScript library will be pushing these events, you can see the kind of SDK here without it being a technical deep dive. You're sort of pushing the JSON of these events to the JavaScript library, which will then take care with any interaction with Sitecore CDP, or you can call the APIs directly. And so you can see over here the event create API, where I'm populating that with the JSON, and I'm getting a response back to say whether it was successful or not. And in that scenario, you're kind of handling the interaction yourself. So there's lots of out-of-the-box events. You can see on the left-hand side, three common events: the identity, view, and search events. In the middle, you can see all of the out-of-the-box events, and you're also able to create custom events, as you can see on the right-hand side here, the add to list event. And as long as you don't conflict with the out-of-the-box event names, you can create as many as you want. So when you're using the JavaScript library, it creates a cookie with the browser ID. And as you can see in each of the calls, whether they're API or whether they're using the SDK, it needs the browser ID. So if we're not using the JavaScript library, we don't have the cookie, and in which case we need to make additional API calls to get that. But perhaps it also facilitates a sort of cookieless scenario if you had extreme compliance requirements. So this is where the browser API comes in. You can see this browser create endpoint here, and it's going to respond with a browser reference and a customer reference, which we can then use for our CDP events. Alternatively, we can, if you're in a sort of logged in environment, you can either locate guests by an identifier and return their reference, or if they don't exist yet, you can create them, and perhaps you want more granular information, perhaps to make the guest type a customer rather than a visitor, various other things, and you'll get the reference back in your API call. But the main point, without focusing on the technicalities, is that everything you can achieve via the SDK, you can do with APIs as well. So to look at here, I'm going to go through as if I'm creating a web experience, and this is the scenario with the JavaScript and GTM where we're changing the markup, the HTML on the fly. So we can do this with, and as you can see, the UI when I've gone to create an experience. In the content, I can choose a web template, which we'll look at subsequently. I can target given pages, target specific audiences. I can use decision models to almost populate data that I want to show to users, and also configure goals to kind of measure the success of my experience. So to look a bit at web templates, you can take HTML. So if you're a very technical marketer, you may be comfortable sort of finding that HTML yourself, or else you can have a developer configure these templates. You can see here the syntax to create a field. So my title field here is shown on the right hand side, and it makes a scenario where it's very user friendly for marketers to easily create variants with different content, populating the title field or other content in different ways, and then they can use that in their web experiences or experiments. But as far as I understand, that's they're not compatible with the full stack version that we're going to use for the APIs. So the page targeting, again, it's maybe self-explanatory, but you can target specific pages with ends with, target domains with starts with, or target site sections with contains. You could achieve the first two with contains as well. But again, I don't believe that's compatible with the full stack scenario, which relates to the APIs. Then audience templates and segments, the sort of audience filtering for your experiences and experiments. You can use segments, hopefully they're reasonably self-explanatory, and then also audience templates, which perhaps are less self-explanatory. And these are compatible with the full stack scenario that we're going to look at. Now, the audience templates are basically JavaScript functions. They use guest information. They use a concept in JavaScript of truthy and falsy to return a Boolean value of true or false. And truthy or falsy with sort of string values would be, if the city in my example is populated, it would be true. If it was null, it would be false. And so in that way, I can sort of restrict my audience to people who I know what city they're in, and perhaps even further in a more complex example. So you're also able to make decision models, which is a very powerful concept, though they can have a performance impact, so to be used with caution to make them too complex. But as you can see, I can sort of input data of guests, orders, or sessions, and then I can use a programmable, which you can see on the right hand side, to actually take that information and programmatically do something with it. So on the right hand side here, you can see I'm configuring the number of days to include, and also the page name that I'm interested in. And you can see I'm using those two variables here, and within my get page frequencies JavaScript function, I'm using the number of days to decide the period to look at, and then I'm iterating over guest sessions, and I'm looking at the events in their sessions where they are view events, and where the page that they've looked at is my page that I'm looking for. And then by calling that function, that then iterates the page count if they have viewed the page, and then based on that information, I'm then returning a value of 1 if they have viewed the page, 0 if they haven't. And I'm, just for a really simple example, I'm returning this JSON property of binary decision is 1 or 0. I could link off to a third-party system to get pricing for a guest, specific pricing for them. I could surface offers, all kinds of rich information. But in my very simple example, I just want to show how the programmable can feed into an API response. So, as I've mentioned, the audience filtering and the decision models are available in the full stack experiences. And instead of web template, in my scenario, I'm going to use an API response. So if I look at that API response, I mean, if you didn't get a developer involved at the JavaScript, it probably is a good time to get some input from a developer. But it uses this free marker syntax, which I'm ultimately able to consume my decision model, get the result of my decision model, which my output of that result in this simple scenario is just, as you can see on the left-hand side here, the binary decision of 1 or 0. And then my API response, this logic runs, and I'm able to effectively respond with the output based on that guest information. So you can test that with the preview API, really user-friendly sort of interface, even though it's very technical. But you can see there how I can sort of populate my API response in a similar way that I can populate my web template for the HTML. So you can then call that API with the call flows endpoint. You need to pass through the parameters here. The friendly IDs are a very important one. That's the ID of my experience or my experiment. And then I can call this API either server side or at the edge. Now, in case anyone thinks I didn't put effort in the slides, this beautiful slide shows that as I say, you can call these APIs for personalization at the edge. If you're using a platform like Vaishali with Next.js, there's a concept of edge functions, which are almost middleware functions that will enable you to dynamically impact the response without having a flicker or a cumulative layout shift, as I've described. Or in a very advanced scenario, you could use edge side includes, which various CDNs support, and do the same thing. But as I say, the main focus isn't the sort of technical implementation. It's really about the fact that the APIs are available. And as I've said in this bottom point, if any trolls claim that it should be API-based personalization at the edge, that's no problem for Sitecore CDP and Personalize, because the platform supports that. Now, it is a bit of a balance because these things aren't mutually exclusive. There's no reason you couldn't use the JavaScript library and use APIs in tandem. Reasons you might want to use, especially the JavaScript library, is budget. The API integration needs development, and that can become very time-consuming and in turn expensive. From an agility perspective, dev release processes take time, and that can sometimes delay and be frustrating for marketers. And then frequency, that sort of development life cycle might be 3-week releases, and if there's a frequent desire to be sort of experimenting and iterating over that, it's important that marketers have got the facility to make these changes, test them quickly, and then perhaps there's a case that things that are going to be more long term, you can make the investment to integrate with the APIs and get that kind of performance benefit. So on that note, as I say, the key point I'd like to impart is that API-based personalization at the edge is no problem for Sitecore CDP and Personalize, and in a very sort of enterprise scenario could come up with optimal results. So thanks very much for listening, and that's me done.
Thank you, Peter. And passing over to Rob.
Hello. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen, and hopefully everyone will be able to see. Can you guys see?
Yes.
We can.
Okay, perfect. Okay, cool. So yeah, my talk is called the who, what, why, where, and when of Sitecore Personalize. So yeah, I'm really delighted to be here, taking part in this Sitecore strategy webinar. And we spoke at a SMAC event last year about personalization in an app that I was involved in. So I'm glad to be back again talking about personalization, this time about Sitecore Personalize, which I'm really excited about and which we're actively pitching to clients as well. So first off, a bit about me. So my name is Robert McGovern, and I'm a Sitecore optimization consultant for Sagittarius here in London. And we usually focus on personalization strategy, content strategy, omni-channel strategy, and now kind of push towards composable as well. So I've been working with Sitecore projects for over 3 years now, and I'm a Sitecore strategy MVP as well. Yeah, and I'm with Sagittarius, who are a pure play Sitecore agency based in London. We have 3 offices in the UK, as well as Dubai and Romania too. And our target markets are UK, GCC, and US. We're a platinum Sitecore partner. We've been working on Sitecore projects for over 15 years, and we have over 100 XP implementations to our name, and have a dedicated in-house Sitecore optimization consultancy, of which I'm a part as well. So the purpose of the talk today is to try to really demystify Sitecore Personalize and break down its parts, so it's easy for a marketer or a strategist or a client to understand, and to kind of get them thinking about how they might be able to use it for themselves. So it's really to get their creative juices flowing and get them kind of imagining themselves using the tool. So yeah, it touches a little bit on what Peter touched on there, but it's a bit more of an introductory talk. So first, I'm going to take you through just a quick overview of what Personalize is and how it fits into the wider ecosystem. And then I'm going to take you through each of these 5 areas of the dashboard that are involved with setting up a personalized web experience. So that's the who, what, why, where, and when of the title of the talk. And then I'm going to go through just a very quick demo to show you how you can actually set something up like this in real time. So what is Personalize? Well, it does exactly what it says on the tin. It lets you show personalized content to your customers across channels based on what you know about them or how they interact with your digital properties. So some clients have kind of asked us what the difference between Personalize and the current Sitecore personalization features are. And it can be a little bit confusing. First off, Personalize is a SaaS product. It's part of the composable suite. It can be bought as a standalone product too, as opposed to the traditional Sitecore personalization features, which are baked into XP. Also, the type of personalized experiences that you can enable with Personalize are a little more kind of in your face or explicit, and with pop-ups and alert bars and stuff like that, rather than the sometimes a bit more subtle personalized components that you see being implemented in XP. And one of the really cool features of Personalize is the templates that you can set up so that marketers or strategists can go in and kind of manage things themselves without the need for a lot of dev work. So it's really quite a useful and exciting product. So just to see how CDP and Personalize work together, there are kind of 4 parts to it. There's the CDP itself. There's the personalized experiences, the experimentation, which is the testing, and then there's the decisioning, which is basically the rules around personalization. There's the inputs for getting the data into the CDP, so the different APIs. There's the decisioning function, which can also connect to external services to pull in data for use in the personalization rules. And then there's the experiences themselves, and at the right-hand side, there are all the channels that the experiences can run on. So the website, obviously, and then the email, social channels, apps, call centers, things like that. So before we get stuck in, there's kind of a few terms that it makes sense to know. So there's the experiences versus experiments. So the experiences are the personalized moments that we're creating, whereas the experiments are basically the testing. In experiences, there's the web experiences, which render on the website itself. So while the user is browsing, and the interactive web experiences are based on interactions on the website that are then rendered on the website too. So it could be a pop-up on the homepage when a user adds a product to a cart, something like that. And then there's also full stack experiences, which are API based and can connect to other channels. And then the triggered full stack experiences happen when a specific event has occurred. So something like this could be an abandoned cart on the website, which triggers an email with a discount to kind of help you complete your purchase. So we will be focusing on the web experience aspect as part of this talk. So just onto the dashboard itself. So this is where the who, what, why, where, and when come in. So this is what the dashboard looks like when you open CDP and Personalize. And they're the 5 sections that make up the personalized web experience section. There's the who, so what's the audience you want your experience to appear for. There's the what content do you want to show them. The why, what are you trying to achieve with the personalized experience? What are your goals? the where, which is where you want your experience to appear, and then when. So under what conditions do you want your experience to appear? So these are the 5 things to really consider when you're about to create a personalized experience. So we can dive a bit deeper into the individual sections and see what we need to do to set up an experience. So under what, so this is where it comes to the content section. This is where we pick what we want to show our visitors. So this is what they'll see when the conditions are met. So one of the really great features of Personalize is that there's a bunch of these pre-built templates which you can use and that are really handy. So things like pop-up takeover, an alert bar that comes at the top of the page, and a few different types of boxes and notifications and things like that. So here we can put whatever content we want. We can talk about, offers or discounts or recommended content, or maybe a prompt to sign up to the newsletter or anything like that. You can also make your own custom content here as well if you want to get a bit more creative, and you can save templates as well for future use. So all in all, it's a really easy tool to use, and it's accessible for someone kind of non-technical to get started. So that's content. Now onto the page targeting. So this is how you set where you want your experience to appear. So you can set it on a page, one page in particular, or on multiple pages. For example, you can set it on your home page if you want to make it widely seen, or on specific category pages or product pages, depending on what the offer or message is. To select the page or pages, once the CDP and your website have been linked, which I'll show you a little bit later, it's really simple to add the URL into the box here, like Peter mentioned there. There's also advanced targeting as well if you want to match with JavaScript on the site to add a bit more complexity to it. So onto the audience section. So this is where we set who we want to see our personalized experience based on what we know about the visitor. And this can be in 2 ways. So one is from our customer database. So this is the segment section. And here we can set our experience to appear for any of the customers we have information for based on things like product preferences or purchase history or demographic stuff like region or age or gender. And this is where CDP comes into play. So if we're using CDP as well as Personalize, this gives us a huge advantage in the level with which we can target experiences to our visitors. So that's segments, and this data is updated on a daily basis. So it's not real time. So the other way we can target is by real-time audience, which is kind of more circumstantial stuff from the visitor point of view. So it could be the country they're visiting the website from. If you have a sale on in a certain country, or the day of the week, you might have an offer on certain days of the week. Or whether it's the visitor's first time on your site, or if they're a return visitor, or it could be based on campaign tracking code or traffic source or anything like that. And that's the audience section. So on to decisioning. So decisioning is a way for users to model and run decisions using business rules. So whereas the audience section focuses on who the visitor is based on what we know about them, the decisioning section focuses on their behavior on our site and when they meet the certain criteria, and we can show them an experience based on it. So for example, if a visitor puts a product into their cart, keeps browsing the site, maybe you want to give them a discount code to help them complete the purchase, or maybe recommend a complimentary product to them or something like that. So the decisioning section lets you build out the decision models, which basically tells Personalize when to show a web experience or experiment. And here there are 3 main elements to think of. There's the inputs, which is how you want your decision to start. So that's based on the guest, so who the visitor is, or their order, which is whatever products they're interacting with, or the session itself. So what are they doing on the site at the moment? And then there's decisions themselves. So they're the calculations behind what you want to happen. So here you have the decision tables and templates, as well as the programmables, which let you use JavaScript in the decision. And then there are internal and external authorities as well. So this could include knowledge sources like an offer catalog. So you can select what specific offer you want to be returned by a specific experience, or other external systems like where you can retrieve some other kind of external data. So in summaries, you have an input, which is what you want to base the decisioning on. Then you have a decision, which is the rules behind it. And then the knowledge source or external systems for where the information comes from that you're using in that decision. And these let you build these complex frameworks for when to show certain experiences. And in Sitecore Personalize, there's a really nice visual decision model builder that you can see here to help you build out this framework. That's decisioning. Onto goals, and this is basically how we measure how successful the experiences that we're running are. So there's 3 ways to do this. There's by page view, which is by putting in a URL. So this could be if a pop-up, for example, is trying to direct traffic to a particular, campaign landing page, for example, or it could be the URL of a purchase confirmation page if you want to measure the success of conversions. Then there are custom events, which could be something like a button click or a brochure download or something like that. And then there's revenue as well, which you can link to experiences by session or by guest to see, how much money your experiences play a role in. So that's a quick look at the who, what, why, where, and when of the personalized web experience dashboard. So I'm going to show you, or give you a little look at how the dashboard looks like in real life and build out a kind of really basic web experience just to show you how kind of quickly it can be done if you're doing something simple on it. So first off, we've kind of built a just really simple web page for this demo on a platform called Glitch. We created a Sagittarius shop with a couple of little products in it and connected it to the CDP and Personalize partner sandbox via the API, so we can run a basic web experiment. So I'm going to switch from PowerPoint to my screen share now. Hopefully this will still work. So can you see my little Sagittarius shop here?
We can.
Brilliant. Okay. So yeah, this is our little Sagittarius shop. So it's just a really simple web page. We've got a few categories here and a few products in each. And we've got our simple deal section and really simple checkout and registration section as well. So this is kind of, just very basic. This could be anything really. And if we quickly look at Glitch, look at Glitch, so we can see, we need to reload this. Bear with me. Okay, so yeah, this is our Glitch, our little platform that we built the real basic page on. So the main kind of section of note is the Sitecore CDP section, which we're on here. So if we go into our, how do I get into our database here? So what we do is if we want to connect our website to CDP and Personalize, we can go into our system settings and get go into API access and get the client key, and then we simply go back in here, upload the client key here, and then if we want to link the POS information too, we basically go back in again. Sorry, that's the top thing is blocking me there. So we go into system settings and go into the point of sale, and we basically create a point of sale here and copy and paste it and dunk it in here, and we can connect our basic website with CDP and Personalize section. But now if we go back to the dashboard, I think we can get out of Glitch now. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah, so we're back in the dashboard now. So we can see a bunch of options on the left menu, like customer data and decisioning and experiments that we kind of mentioned earlier. But the section that we're most interested in is the experiences, and in particular the web experiences. So we'll go in here and make a new one. So go up to create experiences, and I'll just call it Rob SMAC and create it. And then as soon as we do that, we're immediately prompted to choose a content type. So here we can see all the template options like an alert bar or pop-up takeover. So let's do a pop-up. And here we can kind of configure the messaging and the look and feel. So I'll just go in and say, hello, SMAC. I'll make it yellow or something that sticks out a bit. Go and save that. And once we save that and close it, then we're back out onto the dashboard. So here we can see the kind of the who, what, why, where, and when that we talked about on the dashboard here. So we've already added one version of the pop-up, but if we wanted to add a second version and kind of test them against each other, we can do it here with the add variant. And if we click the edit section over here, we can manage the allocation. So here we can say, maybe if we're doing a pop-up that we only want to see 10% or have 10% of the people that meet the criteria have it appear for, we can select it here, but we want 100. And if we have two variants, we can select what percentage of each of those we want to see the different versions of it. So that is the content. So onto page targeting. So yeah, here we simply add in our URL that we want. So I'm going to just copy and paste this. And yeah, just basically dunk it in there. So because we only have, it's a one-page website, we just have the main URL to dunk in there. And once they're connected, it should work on this. So fingers crossed, it's a live demo. But yeah, you could choose, here we've got the home page. We could choose a product page or a category page or a campaign page. And you can even choose multiple pages as well. But for this, we're just going to use one. And then we save it. And once it's saved, we go back out now onto audience. So we have two options here. There's the segment or the real-time audience. So if you want to choose segment, we have to actually go in and create a segment in the customer data section out of the customers that are in the database. But we don't have that set up for this demo. So it's basically, we're just going to use a real-time audience. So here are a bunch of different selectable options for things like country and day of the week and device. So let's just choose device. And let's just choose desktop because I want it to come up on this screen share. So we can save it here and it's saved. Cool. So now decisioning. So with decisioning, if you want to use decisioning, you have to create a decision model in the decision sectioning over here on the left. And if you click add like this, it basically asks you to choose one that you've created already. So in the interest of time, we're not going to do one here, but if you click on decisioning and decision models, you can go in and create your own decision model, like the example on the slide earlier, and by choosing the input data and decisions and knowledge sources. But yeah, as I said, in the interest of time, and because that involves a bit more coding side of things, we're not going to cover that here. But jump out of that and into goals. So here is where you choose whether you want to measure the success based on revenue or page views or custom goal. Again, for page view, we only have a single page website, so we don't have a purchase confirmation URL or anything like that to put in. And we don't have any script in our buttons because it's just a really basic demo. So we're going to leave this blank too. So once you're finished, again, these are all pretty much optional as well. But once you're finished with all your settings, you can go up and start the experience. There's also a preview option here, so you can check if it's working before you go live with it, which is pretty handy. So we'll just dump in our little URL and bring it up here, and hopefully, yay, it appears on the page. So it's great. And then in the preview as well, there's a little box at the side which tells you, if there's an error, it'll tell you what section the error is on. So for us, this is all working okay. So let's jump back into the thing and start it. And then you click run experience, and it takes a few seconds to kind of fish up. Let's jump back. Okay, so it started, so happy days. So I'm gonna go in on incognito mode into our little website, and hopefully it will pop up. Yay, and there we go. So that's just a really basic one. So this is obviously based on the device type. So I just use desktop just to show, but you could use country or day of the week or anything like that for one of those real-time audiences, and it should work. So that is that. So that's basically the kind of who, what, why, where, and when of the personalized web experience section, just to get everyone kind of thinking of how they might be able to use it for themselves. And that's pretty much it. So, ta-da.
Excellent. Thank you, Rob. And to finish this off, Vaishali, you are up. Just a reminder, everyone, please post your questions in the chat. We will have a few minutes to cover them after. Off to you, Vaishali.
Thank you. Yeah, that was amazing. Thank you so much, Peter and Robert. Just let me start. Can you all see my screen? Okay.
We can.
So first, okay, perfect. Thank you so much for coming in, and really excited for this SMAC webinar. So I'm going to dive into the importance of real-time data, which is perfect because Peter has really dived into the technical aspect of things, and Robert has dived us into the marketing personalization demo, which is brilliant. So my name is Vaishali, and I work as a CX analyst, a customer experience analyst for Connabos, which is a Sitecore partner. It's such a thrilling role because I have to deal with complex backend systems, learn about customer needs, as well as find creative, simple solutions to our problems. But only if it was that simple, and I had everything I needed on time. Now for all of us, time is such an important element in our lives, personally and professionally. And especially if we miss out on that particular 1 minute, we can really miss out on a lot of opportunities. Similarly, the importance of the potential of real-time analytics is yet to be discovered because time is of such an essence in the world of personalization and customer experience. So I'm going to be diving into the importance of real-time data, being able to identify what kind of roadblocks are there, how can we overcome them, and really take away and wrap up this webinar today. Just real-time data really allows us, as brands to gather the detailed insights and what the customer is experiencing as we offer them personalized experiences. So why is it important? Why is personalization, we understand, is really important, but how does data play into it, and what kind of value do we want to add in? So for us, I think one thing that I would definitely want to dive into is making data-driven decisions, just like Robert and Peter mentioned about, how we can collect these, how long are in the session for, during their journey that we offer to them, what kind of device are they using, how many times have they viewed our page, why do they like that kind of page, what's their attention span on that page for, within how much are they reading. These are so important elements of being able to identify and learn about your customers to even be able to plan the personalization you want to be able to offer them as marketers. So making these data-driven decisions is a really important factor when it comes down to being able to understand the real-time data. Secondly, being able to offer them personalized experiences in terms of once we have detailed understanding in terms of, when we see data as no data or nationalities incomplete, how can you offer them personalized experiences? How do you know whether they're, Indians, Canadians, Pakistanis? How can you modify their experience based on their culture, or how can they modify based on if it's their birthday? You want to be able to offer them something on their birthday just to make them feel valued and loved. So how do you test those experiences or hypothesis whether your customers will convert on the assumptions that you have? So having these data really helps connect with your customers better and offer them personalized experiences, especially even in variants, when you have variant A, variant B, you're trying and playing around with different things to learn more about your customers. Real-time data really helps in. And lastly, is optimize operations. Now that your customer is converted, it's very important to be able to identify, once an order has been placed, how is the ERP system informed about it? How is the order fulfillment completed? When is the shipping and the delivery, intended to happen? And how do you communicate these back to customers at real time so the customer feels that they are not only converted and purchased your product or service, but they are being taken care of at every journey and experience of theirs? This is a very, very important element because you want to be able to retain them as customers and continue them and become your loyal customers. One very, very important element of real-time data is reporting. Through reporting, you're able to gather detailed insights about your customers, like, how Robert mentioned about goals. Yeah, you're collecting those, but how are you identifying whether at which goal are they, have they crossed that goal? How long are they taking in that goal? When do they reach that goal? Being able to gather these real-time data insights about your customers through the goals you set for them in the experiments that you have really helps you understand your customer behavior. Even the CDP and the personalized platform offer visibility on activity heat maps, such as, being able to see when are they based on your time, are they performing well and stuff. So that is really, really useful in terms of the insights aspect of things. And channels of engagement, whether are they using web, are they using mobile web, what is working for them, and how do you kind of navigate your experiences for them? All these screenshots are part of the CDP and Personalize website. So the big question here is, as marketers, are we making data-driven decisions to drive the best customer experiences and offer them personalized experiences? Are we doing it right? How can we improve? What are the kind of roadblocks we are coming across when it comes down to being able to offer them the personalized experiences through Sitecore CDP and Personalize? Few key roadblocks that are common across any kind of business domain are complicated backend systems. We've run through connections. So these are a screenshot from the Sitecore website where we have options of the site connections we make, through APIs and different data platforms to be able to offer them like page recommendations. What's the weather like? How can they get their product? These APIs and data systems are such an important part of the experiences or the end goal that we want to kind of offer to them. But that doesn't kind of seem easy, right? So they are very complicated in the back end, but how can we sort of identify them and kind of overcome them with something I'll talk about in the next segment. Next one, I think, is extremely important, which is lack of process planning. One thing that I find very difficult, it comes down to is, how Robert showed all of the demos, but what happens before even logging into Sitecore CDP and kind of making that entire experience for the customer is process planning. So you can identify exactly how you want to be able to offer them, what you want to be able on a paper, sit down together, brainstorm together, how you're going to really use the platform, Sitecore platform, to really bring in that experiences for the customer. Because we all have so many legacy systems that we carry forward with ourselves, we don't really, identify what kind of gaps are missing into the experience that we want to be able to collect and offer to the customers. Many times, we use the Sitecore platform for everything that we need to, which is great. But when it comes down to reporting, we don't really, end of the day, really have full detailed insights about our customers. And I think that's where we lack about how do we move forward, what has worked, what has not worked, what should we try again. And that's where the potential that the platforms, the CDP platform and personal platform have, is to be able to really bring these insights in. But for that, real-time data is extremely important. So identify those gaps that are that need to be collected when you're setting up an experiment. Even as example, as are those goals being triggered? Are those events being triggered? Are they being landed at the right page? Things like that really help. So all of these are part of the unstructured data elements. So how do we get there? How do we make this unstructured data really a part of structured data? And how do we kind of overcome these roadblocks together? So I have two key takeaways in this aspect of things. And the first one is being able to share a same customer experience vision, which comes down to, right, we're going to use this platform to be able to, trigger these events for a certain segment, make these decisions and offer them a promotion or offer them an incentive of anything that they need, the experience is set. But has that been communicated across the different diverse stakeholders involved in the process? Is the shipment team involved? Do they know that you're running a promotion? Is the customer service team involved? Do they know that if a customer calls, are they going to be informed about the same thing? So kind of integrate and have the shared common experience that you want to be able to offer to the customers amongst the diverse stakeholders involved. And I think that is communication is an extremely important element of this piece to be able to overcome the roadblocks here. And the next piece is continuous improvement and data quality. The platform has so much to offer, but if our data is not at its best, if there are missing fields, if there are incomplete information, you'll never be able to identify the right audience or the right segment and leverage what the platform has to offer us. A lot comes again from the legacy that we continue to carry time again from the backend systems that we have. Spend time really improving on these, removing the bad data, filling in the missing values, joining multiple data sources together if possible, just to be more effective in its way, streamline data pipelines, and even transforming data formats in terms of whatever works best for your organization and is very simple to use for everyone across, because not everyone might be as tech savvy as you or have the right understanding. So how do you create that shared understanding and work towards improving the quality of data you have? End of the day, we're only growing. And the thing about experiences is that it's an emotion. So the only way that you can quantify and put a number on this emotion and say, if I gave a user an experience, like I give them a promotion, you can't really feel and see how they felt about it, but the conversion will speak about it. But to see the details of the conversion, you need good data and real-time data. And then lastly, in terms of key takeaways that I want you all to wrap up with this wonderful seminar, is spending time really having a shared standardized customer experience matrix. In the world of experience, there's so much that we are learning about, user experience, digital experiences, customer experiences, whatever it is that works for your organization, take them and put it as a part of your business matrix and your KPI and say, end of the day, you're clearly outlining your organization's big goals and saying, right, in terms of, revenue and other things, how is the customer performing? What's the effort score like, customer effort score, or what is the NPS score like when we are, allowing these customers and offering them these kind of experiences that we are using the Sitecore platform. Collaborative and clear communication is a very important element. When we work towards such things, you have to have a process in place, which is identifying what exactly is your purpose as an organization or as a part of the project or the experience you want to offer them. Which kind of people are going to be involved? What kind of problem are you solving? What's the process going to be like? And lastly, what kind of platform are you using? And if you're using, when you're using Sitecore and Personalize, what kind of decision models are you going to be experimenting with, and how are you going to be doing? And lastly, are they matching with your purpose? And are you able to collect this whole integrated digital experience program planning aspect of things? An effective use of data platforms is the key. I mean, Sitecore has, the platform has so much to offer you, but if you're not using it to its fullest, are you reflecting on the decisions you're taking? Is your data management in place? Are the customer profiles updated? Are you, for example, if you're running a program to retain customers, how do you identify those customers that are not engaging with you? What's the timeline like? Are their details updated? Things like that kind of then helps you segment your audience in a much better way. You really use the platform in full utilization in terms of making digital decisioning models. Really experiment with your customers to know them better. Make an effort to know them better, not just for the sake of it, but dive into how your customers feel at every touch point that you offer the best experiences to them using the Sitecore CDP and Personalized platform. And spend time analyzing in the insights that you gather. For that, you need real-time data. That's it from me. Thank you so much for being a part of the seminar today. I wanted to keep it a little short with everyone else and just be, in mindful of the time. But we would love to learn. If you would love to learn more about us, please connect with us.